Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Learning Stethoscope. In today's video, we're continuing our journey through the anatomy of the spinal cord. This time diving into the anatomy of the ascending tracts, more specifically into the dorsal column tract. Let's start from the beginning. You can think of the spinal cord as the main highway between the body and the brain. Signals are constantly traveling up and down, carrying information between the brain and the body. So, to keep things organized, we divide these pathways into two main groups. The ascending tracts, which carry sensory information from the body all the way up toward the brain, and the descending tracts, which carry motor instructions from the brain down to the muscles. Together, these ascending and descending pathways make sure that the brain always knows what's happening in the body and is able to respond quickly to any change in the environment. When it comes to the ascending tracts, we have two major sensory pathways: the spinothalamic tract, also called the anterolateral system, and the dorsal column medial lemniscus tract. Together, these two systems carry all the sensory information that the brain needs to interpret what's happening in the body. Now, we experience many different types of sensations coming from receptors distributed throughout the body, but we can group them into five main categories: pain, temperature, crude, non-discriminative touch, vibration, proprioception, and fine discriminative touch. Each of these sensations is transmitted through the spinal nerves, enters the spinal cord, and then travels up to the brain through specific pathways. The spinothalamic tract carries information about pain, temperature, and crude touch, while the dorsal column tract carries vibration, proprioception, and fine touch. Understanding which pathway carries which type of sensation is key to understanding how the nervous system processes information. And it also helps us identify where a lesion might be if a particular type of sensation is lost. Now, all of these sensations are detected by receptors. More specifically, sensory receptors, which act like tiny biological transducers. You've probably heard of transducers in solar panels. They convert sunlight into electrical energy. Or in wind turbines, which transform the movement of the wind into electricity. Well, our sensory receptors work in a very similar way. They take a particular type of stimulus, such as pressure, temperature, or pain, and convert it into an electrical signal that the nervous system can understand. So, in simple terms, they turn a non-electrical stimulus into an electrical signal that travels through nerves all the way to the brain. Sensory receptors are specialized nerve endings that respond to specific kinds of stimuli. We can group them into five main types, depending on what kind of energy or change they detect. Mechanoreceptors. These respond to mechanical forces like touch, pressure, vibration, or stretch. They're the reason you can feel your phone vibrating, the pressure of your shoes, or the movement of your joints. Then we have thermoreceptors. These detect temperature changes, both hot and cold. They're scattered throughout the skin and help us sense whether something is warm or cool. Then are the nociceptors. These are our pain receptors. They respond to potentially damaging stimuli like extreme heat, intense pressure, or chemical irritation. They act as an early warning system, alerting us to danger so we can protect ourselves. Then we have chemoreceptors that detect chemical changes, such as oxygen or carbon dioxide levels in the blood or the concentration of molecules in our environment. You'll find them in places like the carotid bodies and aortic arch, where they help regulate breathing. Last but not least, we have our photoreceptors. Found only in the retina of the eye, these respond to light and make vision possible. They're not directly part of the spinal cord pathways, but they complete the main group of receptor types in the body. So, to sum it up, each receptor is specialized to detect a specific type of stimulus. But when we talk about the ascending tracts of the spinal cord, only three types of receptors are directly involved: the mechanoreceptors, nociceptors, and thermoreceptors. These are the ones responsible for carrying information about touch, pressure, pain, and temperature from the body all the way up to the brain. So, now that we've talked about the different types of receptors and sensations, let's take a closer look at the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway, often just called the dorsal column tract. Just like the spinothalamic tract, the dorsal column pathway uses a 3-neuron chain to carry information from the body all the way to the brain. So everything begins in the periphery with sensory receptors, specifically mechanoreceptors and proprioceptors, located in the skin, muscles, tendons, and joints. These receptors detect stimuli such as fine touch, vibration, and proprioception, which is your brain's ability to know the position and movement of your limbs, even with your eyes closed. When these receptors are activated, they generate an electrical signal that travels along the first-order neuron, whose cell body is located in the dorsal root ganglion. From there, the axon enters the spinal cord and ascends in the dorsal column. Now, let's take a closer look at this dorsal column. It's actually divided into 2 major tracts. The fasciculus gracilis carries information from the lower part of the body, meaning regions below the T6 level. And the fasciculus cuneatus carries information from the upper part of the body, above T6. So both tracts are like separate lanes on the same highway, each carrying sensory traffic from different parts of the body up to the brainstem. When these first-order fibers reach the medulla oblongata, that's where they finally synapse with the second-order neurons. So, fibers from the fasciculus gracilis synapse in the nucleus gracilis, while those from the fasciculus cuneatus synapse in the nucleus cuneatus, both located in the dorsal part of the medulla. From these nuclei, the axons of the second-order neurons cross over to the opposite side of the medulla, a process called decussation. After crossing, they form a new bundle known as the medial lemniscus, which then ascends through the brainstem until it reaches the thalamus, specifically the ventral posterolateral nucleus. At this point, notice that information from the left side of the body is now carried on the right side of the brainstem, and vice versa. In the thalamus, the fibers synapse with the third-order neurons, whose axons travel through the internal capsule and project to the primary somatosensory cortex, located in the post-central gyrus of the parietal lobe. And this is where perception truly happens, where the brain interprets these signals, allowing you to consciously sense vibration, recognize textures, and understand the position and movement of your limbs. And there you have it, the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway, the elegant system that gives your brain the detailed map of touch, vibration, and position sense. If you enjoyed this explanation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Learning Stethoscope. It really helps the channel grow and keep videos coming. Stay curious, and see you next time.